taking a minute to come back. So now we have a great discussion, a panel discussion with the theme being companies and organisations. And we can see Marta spotlighted there. Hi Marta, from the Consultants Hub. Lovely. And we have Gualberto. Welcome Gualberto to the panel from Uruguay. We have Raymond joining from Greenpeace in Luxembourg. We have Ruth here from the Fundraising Hub. Hi Ruth, the International Federation. Great that you can join us. Hi Oliver.
Hi.
Hi. Oliver's joining as a representative of city-owned businesses that are collaborating with Econ Good. And we have Martina somewhere, should be joining us too. Martina Dietrich, also from the Consultants Hub. Wow, so welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Now there may be many questions coming from the audience here. So if you have any questions, please write them in the chat. But I have a few questions of my own too to kick things off. So I think it would be good. Perhaps we could start with you, Raymond. I'd love to hear about the conversations you had at Foundry Europe recently on Econ Good and changing the rules of the game. Would you care to share your perspective on that and how the role of organisations is so important in making these changes?
Yes, hello. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Raymond, Director of Greenpeace in Luxembourg. So we are one of the smaller Greenpeace offices in the world, but we are one with 20 people working with us, with my colleagues. And yes, we are working only on 3 campaigns, and one of these campaigns is sustainable finance. You know, Luxembourg is very small. It's just 2,800 square kilometers, and we have 700,000 inhabitants, but we have a very big finance industry. And so many funds and billions are managed in Luxembourg, and our government is greening a little bit this finance industry with projects, and they are trying to do well, but it's far away from that what we need. And everybody can imagine that finance and money is also very destructive when we are talking about biodiversity and climate. And so that is why we are doing campaigning since 2016 on finance, on finance, on funds, on banking, on the pension funds, and that where we are also connected to other offices in Europe and also some worldwide. So that's very close that we are working with finance industry and with economy so far, and that's why we said yes, let's have a look to the economy of common good, and let's have a look for ourselves how we are doing our business, and so that's why we started to make also a balance where I speak later of that.
Yes, we'll hear a talk from you later where you go into more detail on the.
But to your question, NGOs are very important in so many fields. We heard it from St. Pauli, even for young people, to bring them to the sport and to join together, all nations together, and all kinds of things. NGOs are really the engines to and some guarantee for democracy in states.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. I wonder actually on that topic of finance and money being counterproductive with regards to sustainability and climate. Gualberto, you're the CEO of Ecotech in Uruguay. What's your experience around this?
Well, it's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you deeply for this opportunity. In Uruguay, we have an emerging ecosystem of small business that are very enthusiastic about ethical and humanistics approach applied to business. Although the economy of common good is not yet widely known, it's widely accepted every time we have communicated our model. It's not, I think it's not the best tool since it does not to seek to compete with others, but rather to complement it. It's the most holistic and balanced and also the most demanding. And I believe this means that only companies that have ethical root, as we have in our foundation, can seek to adopt this model. I believe that the model and its tool are not an end by themselves, but rather a means to achieve change in social, cultural, and economic paradigm. It means to transform the common sense in other common sense. This is my first approach.
Yes, yeah, thank you. And your comment around believing that organisations that have ethical roots first are the ones that will turn to the more holistic approach of Econ Good. Oliver, I wonder, given your contact with city-owned businesses, is that also your understanding?
Hi to everyone from Frankfurt, Germany. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, of course, Oliver. I was wondering actually, because Gualberto mentioned that he believes that organisations that have an ethical root at the heart of the business are the ones that will turn to Econ Good and balancing because of its more holistic approach. Do you find that similar with the city-owned businesses, or is there another agenda that's making them turn to Econ Good?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I have to pour water into wine concerning this topic because most of the public or the city-owned businesses we accompany, they are forced to start with the ECG balance sheet, basically. So when the local governments decide that the ECG is a way to enforce sustainability in the area, so the city-owned businesses are part of the local political decision-making, and so they are kind of a vehicle to show how the ECG works and to create measurable results of a political decision. And so to be honest, there is hardly a city-owned business who just discovered the ECG balance sheet and decided to go ahead. It's the other way around. The decision to move forward with ECG inspiration is made politically, and then the businesses may decide to adopt it. Some of them were even forced to go into the process or have been talked into starting the process. So typically, these are the businesses who do the balance sheet once, and as soon as the public eye shifts away from this topic, they drop it. So none of them will re-audit because they have forced by policy to, or let's say inspired by policy to do it. And this is the bad message, but I also have a good message, but maybe a bit later. I don't know.
No, I think we need some good news too, please.
Yeah, there are some good news too, because I'm accompanying this publicly owned companies for quite a few years here in Germany. So I have quite different experiences, and we also try to motivate them to start the ECG balance sheet and motivate the political decision makers. So yeah, I have quite a story to tell, but there are a few CEOs who discovered the benefit of the ECG, as there are a few in privately owned businesses as well. But if their municipality didn't decide for adopting the ECG as a political instrument yet, the CEOs will not decide on their own. They will wait for a green light from the local government. So these few they are stopped as long as politics say go. Why? Because the local government is on the board of directors, and the local government is basically the owner of this governmental companies. And starting an ECG process is a strategic decision. So they are fully dependent on the political will. But of course, there are, well, some CEOs who really discovered it and who decided to work on the ECG balance sheet and understood the benefits which arise from the preceding process and the results they have a story to tell. So first, what are the benefits? They get ready for future. They are prepared for. They prepare their company for the CSRD framework. Then second, they attract young employees. The city-owned businesses are not the sexiest on the planet. With the ECG balance sheet in place, they prove that they are transformative, innovative companies who care. So this is very attractive for young employees, and they all looking for young employees. And third experience is that CEOs improve their own reporting performance in front of the board of directors. This is important because they used to report whether they had a positive or a negative annual financial result. So now with the ECG in place, they spend at least 25% of their reporting time in front of the board, of the political board, reporting their common benefits their company creates, officially confirmed by an external ECG audit. This is really great for the CEOs of these companies. They don't have to defend themselves why they have only negative financial results. So they are speaking about the public value of their own company, audited by the ECG. So that's pretty cool for them. And of course, they strengthen their public image. One CEO told me that it's for the times when politics again want to sell them to private investors. So they prove their contribution to society and say, please don't sell us in future, because it's proven that that we have a benefit, we create a benefit. So that's
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's really interesting. And I love the idea that it is a top-down approach. It's not actually bad news that the municipalities are forcing them to do this. It's fantastic, right? So that's really good. And I wonder, Marta, from the Consultants Hub and the work that you've also been doing as a consultant in Italy, do you feel that that the companies are coming to you because of this strong core of ethics underneath their way of working and their way of being that's driving companies to find you? Or are you going out there finding them and persuading them to do the balance?
I would say, unfortunately, it's still the opposite. But we are seeing more and more a specific kind of company that is approaching us directly. And these are società benefit, that are basically in English benefit corporations, but are not B Corps. I mean, they are not B Corps as a movement or certification, but it's an Italian law that propose to companies, for-profit companies, to also become for-profit and benefit corporations. And when a company decides to do so, they should change their statutes and put some common good goals together with profit goals. And they should commit to an annual report on this. And so they really look at us as the way we can support them to deliver this annual report, which is mandatory for them. And of course, they are companies that are purpose-driven, because otherwise they would just stay profit companies and not società benefit companies. So they are aligned, and they look for us as a support to reporting and to improving afterwards.
Thank you. And then regarding the reporting, Gualberto, you've been doing a lot of work over the last 3 years. In terms of developing the approach that you take. Would you like to share more about that, and how does the balance sheet and the tools that you have from Econ Good, how do they adapt to companies in Latin America? Is it working for you?
Okay. First of all, I want to tell you, I'm thinking about what Oliver was talking. I think we need to unite the management point of view of the common good and the tools with the broader story of political transformation that we want in relation to democracy and social justice. In our company, it wasn't difficult because we have this kind of roots, and it means for us we are better than before. But this is a problem, and that's one of the points that motivate us most today. We want to avoid the risk, and now at this moment we want to avoid the risk of moral supremacy. I mean, it's that stating that we are better because we are really good. The ethical approach, the orientation to caring for others, the worthiness of being a grain of sand, it's helping us, but I think it's a danger. And in Latin America, I think we need to simplify the tool, the balance sheet, the metrics for micro and small business to make their incorporation movement to the movement is so complicated and so expensive, and we have a great amount of informal economy in our country and in Latin America, I think. And these are challenges for us now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so the process, having a simpler process would help. And actually, the Consultants Hub have been working on the harmonisation of the peer process to improve the quality. Marta, would you like to tell us more about that?
Sorry, I heard my son is coming in, so I was like preparing all the stuff for him not to interrupt our conversation. Yeah.
Did you hear the question? Yeah.
So concerning the peer process, within the Consultant Hub, we worked on it a couple of years ago already with the idea to harmonize it. First of all, we exchanged experiences both in Italy, in DACH region, in Spain, etc., about the existing processes, and we realized we were using two different processes that can be the two of them really valid ones, and so we decided to standardize them, but accepting the two of them. The first one is the original one by the DACH region is all the workshops of building up the balance sheet are done together by the companies, and then there is the last part of validation of a score, whereas the Italian version is that the three companies do the consultancy with their own consultant together, I mean not together, and then they come together for the last 8 hours for the validation of the scoring. And these are both two valid processes in order that can fit the one or the other situation. For instance, if a company is quite big, I mean, I'm maybe even 50 people, and not just 1, 2, or 3 people, maybe it's good to have a part with a single consultant in order to have quality data, quality indicators, and focus a little bit more on this. And then go with other companies to have also some value from the exchange of best practices with the other companies. Whereas if there are few employees, for instance, it's also really good to go the workshops together from the beginning, because it's far more valuable and you have much more inputs on this. And so this was the first part, the first phase, to recognize that there are two different available paths, and they are the two of them really good. And then also there were some complaints in the movement about the quality of the peer validation. In fact, in the peer process, the idea is that companies validate themselves together, and so the idea was, okay, but how can we be sure that the final score is comparable to the one of an audit? And so we tried to think about this, and now to ensure more quality in the final results of peer, And we worked on the role of the facilitator of the peer, with the idea that the facilitator is an ECG consultant, has a specific role. He is not just facilitating the meetings with the companies deciding the final scores for each topic, but he can say the last word, at least about the level of evaluation. So let's think there's no consensus about the score of a company on a specific topic. In that case, the facilitator can say, okay, guys, let's check again the handbook. The correct level here is, for instance, advanced. And within the advanced level, the peers can choose the right scoring. In that sense, we have the possibility to hire a little bit the quality of the peers and be sure that this is more similar and more comparable to an audit. So this is a little bit we are doing with peers now.
And have you been piloting this and testing it out and it's working? Yeah.
Yeah. In Italy, it's been 2 years now that we are using this methodology, and we must say that also the companies perceive the higher quality, and also they are more trustful about this methodology.
Gualberto, does that sound like something that would help your organization?
Yes.
Or you beyond that now, maybe, because you've done all
yes,
the work
maybe.
already. Yeah.
Maybe, but we don't have enough consultants, and these are one of the weakest part of our process. 3 years ago we have, or 2 years ago we have, Valencia University program that focused on ECG consultants, but since 2 years we don't have any, and we have very few consultants in Latin America. So this is our needs. We are needing now. This is difficult for us, and at this moment to go with these objectives, because we don't have enough time, enough consultants, and we're thinking about express balance. It means that they have the 20 matrix aspects, but simplified, and go with this tool. We would love that ECG could validate at any way, and not to give certification or a formal process, but a kind of recognition of this process, because it would be very useful for us to use the name of Econ Good, some kind of this in these companies, very small companies, one person, sometimes 2 persons, 3 persons that may be interested, but they can afford the cost, this higher cost for this.
Yes, makes sense. Yeah, thank you, Gualberto. I realise we've only got 3 minutes left, so I've got one more question for Ruth and another one for Raymond. So if that's okay, Ruth, let's switch to you first. What are the ways that the organisational members have been actually supporting the movement in terms of the growth of the movement? Could you share something about that?
I can certainly do that. I have to say, I've got examples from Germany. I guess, including though some companies that don't just do business in Germany, but they're based in Germany. I can put the links to them in the chat in a minute. I wanted to start with Völker, who are in Germany quite a well-known leading brand of natural juice producer. And they have been really supportive in many ways by promoting Econ Good and promoting the model and how important it is. a good example is this year when we launched the new label. We launched it at a big trade fair for organic food and other things, and we were basically on the focal stall. So they go anywhere because they produce, obviously organic juices, and they said, please join us, and we can use this as a platform to launch the label. And that's a really great way of supporting us. Because otherwise we would find it very hard to get access to an event of that size and with that sort of reach and profile. So that's a really good example of how an organizational member can support us. Another good example is VBS or WBS, who are a training provider. They're based in Germany, but they operate worldwide. So some of you might have actually been on a training course, maybe for your work, that was organized by them. You might not know even sometimes because they provide it on behalf of others. And that's quite straightforward because they're donating. They're one of our corporate donors, which is fantastic. We haven't yet really figured out how we could work with them on the training front. It's something that we keep thinking we must tackle. So we really have to sit down with Heinrich, who was their CEO, and say, let's speak about that in a bit more detail. Another good example is Vaughn, who are green producers of outdoor clothing and outdoor gear. And their founder, CEO, is one of our speakers and ambassadors. So it's not necessarily that the company does something directly in a sense, but you can hear from her a lot. So again, it's kind of reach and promotion, and they speak a lot about the fact that they have done the balance, and that is also really worthwhile. Companies simply saying we've done the Econ Good balance, and so should you, follow our example. My final example is somebody who is incredibly active in Germany, but also in support of the International Federation, who I work for. And that is Michael Stober, who now, after lots of other things he did in his life, runs one of the greenest, most climate-friendly hotels and conference centers in Germany, maybe even Europe. I don't know. They keep winning prizes. I think they're carbon and energy negative even already, so you couldn't be any greener. Michael Stober is in our major donor circle. He's very active in that. He continues to hold Econ Good events at his conference center, and that means also for freer times or at very reduced rates. He held a Econ Good Summit a couple of years ago for German companies, and that was very much to celebrate them, to raise their profile, to bring them together. He is a founder and very active member of a common good companies network in Berlin-Brandenburg. The list is endless of what Michael does, sorry, when it carries on. And apart from being a part of our major donor circle, and so he donates every year. Last year, as a result of our work with our major donors together, he spearheaded something that's called the 1 Million Movement. So that's initially in Germany, and it is about increasing membership and increasing membership contributions. And he is the one who sort of put his name on this. So he wrote a letter that went to companies and said, let's do a bit more. And it's part of a really well thought out plan to see how can we raise our profile again, how can we get more members, how can we get more commitment from them, and work more proactively together in an attempt to improve our resourcing. So he is a really great example of sort of working on a huge number of fronts as an entrepreneur and as a company member. So these are just some of the ways in which companies are supporting us.
I appreciate that share, because there's companies here and obviously consultants here that are liaising with companies that can take some of these ideas and hopefully widen that reach.
Yes.
So thank you.
Could I just add, if anybody's thinking of this, in-kind support is really very valuable. And in particular, there's two things, and a really easy way in supporting the movement is to provide space. So even if in your offices you have available desks, you know, the costs of office space is considerable. So that can be an easy way of supporting the movement by basically saying you get your office space. And by that, I mean, not just the desk, but you can just use our facilities and you don't have to pay for anything. And pro bono support in around sort of staff resourcing is also valuable. You know, not, you know, so anybody who says, I don't know whether this ever might happen, but our social media manager can spare a day, that kind of stuff is fantastic as well. So just throwing in a couple of ideas there, or even bookkeeping or IT support, you know, anything like that.
Yeah. And I can imagine actually with the move to hybrid working and hot desking, that there are plenty of seats available in offices on different days of the week. That would be quite easy to leverage. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, I know we're a little bit over time, but this is so interesting. I want to ask one more question for Raymond. Raymond, given that you're also the founder of Okopolis and your experience in both the commercial and the non-profit sectors, could you explain what you think the key differences are and the differences in challenges are across those sectors and how Econ Good can support them?
Yeah, the difference are quite big. So and also the history and of Oikopolis started also with on NGO level. So in 1989, when I finished my study, I came back to Luxembourg, and then we founded the Association of Organic Farming. After that, we founded the first health food shop in Luxembourg. Then after that, we founded a cooperative of organic farmers. After that, we founded directly a wholesaler. After that, we started the second and the third and the fourth shop. So up to now, it's an existing structure of more than 30 years. And we have now in Luxembourg 11 shops, and we have about 300 employees. And we have a turnover of about 50 million euros. So it's a quite different dimension of what I told before of Greenpeace. So, but it is something where I'm much more rooted in. And I can tell you now, in 1 week, I will be retired from Greenpeace. So, I will be much more involved in this organic farming and in this eco-good business. And the company of Oikopolis, it has now the third evaluation, and with 670 points, I think it's quite well. Always the best, very, very well.
Wow.
And the principle was from the beginning on, already 30 years ago, that we are working cooperative and that we are working on the whole food chain, from the farmer to the consumer. And that the prices are really correct for the farmers and also for the traders and for the processors. All this kind of processes is instrumentalized into this Oikopolis structure. But it would be another presentation just for this. I'm only in the advisory board. I'm only also voluntary in this business. But it takes me quite a lot of time to be in this advisory board with 7 other people. And it's really interesting. And I can tell you, through this whole difficult times we had now with Corona and now with the war in Ukraine and with inflation rates and all of this, we are struggling like a lot of companies. But I'm sure, and I think our colleagues in the company and our advisory board is quite sure and certain that we would not survive when we would not have this cooperative structure. I'm just stopping here, otherwise it'll be taking too much time, I think.
Yeah, no, it's fine. You mentioned you're retiring. Do you know who you're handing over to, and are they also as a staunch advocate for Econ Good the same way that you are?
In Greenpeace? Yeah. So we did make this peer group with other 2 companies, and it was done by a colleague of mine. So mainly, so he is involved even more in this all technical things of the balance than I am. And so when Greenpeace Greenpeace Luxembourg, I must precise, likes to go ahead with that, the competences are inside the association. And I must also say we had a few years ago an international webinar about system change and new economics. And we organized also a seminar with Christian Felber. And after that, there was also certification of Greenpeace Germany and Greenpeace Switzerland.
Thank
so
you.
we have the
Thank
third
you.
Greenpeace. We have the third Greenpeace office.
It's good to know that there's other colleagues that are as passionate as you are. Thank you.
I hope so.
There is a question, but we're going to have to call it a day for now. Raymond will be talking later today at 7:30, so he can talk more about Greenpeace Luxembourg then. And I presume you might be open to other questions as well, Raymond, during that session. Thank you so much to all of the panel members. You're such a wealth of knowledge. We could talk all day and it would still be super interesting. So thank you, thank you. If there's any questions for any of you from the audience, would you be willing to answer those in the chat? Yeah. To the panelists, thank you very much. So now we're going to go to breakouts, be a bit shorter. We'll have about 10 minutes to connect on a personal level. I'll hand you over to Daniela.
Right. Well, we're opening.